Vocabio. Master English your way.
Sewing. My mom was a seamstress, is a seamstress. And,
in a restaurant, and my mom was a seamstress. And these low-paying jobs just for our future.
My mother was a seamstress. I'm very proud that my sister and I helped them retire. Very little.
Sewing. My mom was a seamstress, is a seamstress. And,
Minha mãe era costureira na época, e aí ele.
So OCC, and so we have donned our pretty sweaters, and we are off.
Words. I would wake up at the crack of dawn, and because of those words, I would.
We'll talk about it in a bit as well. But the sort of the dawn of the modern age. What is it that's made people want to
bite-sized pieces? Since the dawn of time, teachers have been posed the question by students
and families, even before dawn, as they wait excitedly for liftoff.
Es una víctima de trata argentina que está presa en este.
Una sola comida hispana, latina, quizás argentina, que quieras comer por el resto de tu vida.
To dismantle, but many are simply Argentinian citizens, scared of the pain his
in the same country, like drink different varietals of Argentinian wine, multiple years of the same
Argentinian grapes. I'm sure many of you are all.
Diego, I'm Mexican. If I'm in Florida, I'm Cuban or Puerto Rican. If I'm in New York, I'm Puerto Rican. Diego, I'm Mexican. If I'm in Florida, I'm Cuban or Puerto Rican. If I'm in New York, I'm Puerto Rican.
Maybe in 2008 or 9 by Mark Cuban, actually kind of comparing student debt issue to the
crisis situation. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis of the fall of 1960?
Bahamian, I could be Haitian, you could be Cuban, you could be Peruvian, and that blurriness makes Miami.
According to identity politics, the sins of the father are visited.
Poems called Sin, for which she was subjected to election.
I know we don't like to visit the sins of the fathers on the children, but for a father who...
So many of the problems came from that original sin back in the mid-2010s, which was that they were optimizing...
Every character of being a sentient being, I've witnessed this.
Over those tiny clay pieces, it hit me. Not all friction is bad.
So much time meticulously removing the Jurassic clay from around the skeleton.
Bits of the United Kingdom which have a proper clay base. Oxfordshire, for example, would...
Nor is it a clean white clay from a wellness blog. Calabash chalk is an earthly substance.
Script out these, 3-point plays for Steph and Clay. And with Steve Kerr, it was going to be a little bit more, not improv.
Tell me whether you think this is a model or whether there are lessons for others.
Without thinking.
Yeah, it's everything that we're modeled. People like the clapbacks. They like the snarky.
About the Vitellius of the model, Vitellius is the emperor.
Not just in some parts of the country. I do not want a model of growth that says London and the southeast does the heavy lifting.
On the new OpenAI O3 Mini reasoning model, the release of which we were anticipating during the conversation.
Mounds shaping the park's layout. As its center, the park becomes a quieter space which...
This was typically the garden layout, how it started, and it's very much a Dutch sort of method of...
To understand layouts and connections between neighborhoods.
Very complicated. So this is a layout of how they will be seen underwater.
Diagram for the general layout of the project. That then was
had from someone about a report they had on how reliant companies
look back at Capitalism's 250 report card. It reads incredibly well. In the first
side as a result of trying to report, how have you managed to kind of keep...
Been sent there. We've also getting a lot of reports that the Wagner Group, for example, or the paramilitary...
Prepared for disaster with 36-page reports of pandemic preparedness can turn out...
Security, family and school challenges with childcare and school going virtual. And
has made
into childcare entitlements, and wondered whether you might want to.
We would have childcare and universal childhood education.
からしまして、家事とか育児が手伝えるような。すいません、この話になるとついつい。
But that's like it's very hard to find male childcare workers. I was looking at the numbers for the UK recently. They're on.
In the morning, which by the way, who here has a tongue scraper? Yes. If you don't have a tongue scraper, you don't know how.
I was just wondering how you feel about comic scrapers.
Comic scrapers. I am happy for anyone to.
Inexpensive item called a bench scraper. It's also called a dough cutter.
Having that, a bench scraper, so useful. It's not just for like dividing dough.
My scraper, I used to work with a sous chef that used to.
I'm not, there's no way. It's like the stout, you know, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Vessels. Ales like porters, stouts, and pale ales ferment quicker.
We want to understand the requirements needed to perform the work of household management.
Intermittency problem. The storage requirements are such that the technologically
hundreds of thousands or millions of people. It's a requirement of the citizens.
Just the general challenges posed by the eligibility requirements, the system that required.
Consent is the only requirement. Now, at the commercial break, Katie turned to me and she said,
the end of one of the rows, a big blonde fellow whose flesh hung heavy on him, and shoes that were common.
I'm gonna get mine, and he got 55 on us.
Okay, we'll get you off the hook.
When I
I saw a patient snap out of a depression almost in a moment.
Just being aware of your thoughts might be enough to snap you out of it, but finding something that's...
We saw him in the suit-up room snapping pictures there, and then he rode out to the launch pad with them where he snapped.
And then that got snapped back. Rue always talks about around 2000.
Instagram and TikTok and Snap and Pinterest and everywhere in between.
Functions almost like as a pressure valve for them, and that's why she managed to garner some.
This right here, this pressure is fucking insane.
Little, who founded the pressure group Press for Change, that fought long and
go through the list to put pressure on the legal system, pressure on the courts, go after.
Kind of correct. These different vignettes of the pressures and the opportunities and the lifestyles.
Basically his boredom, and the devastation is unthinkable.
To just things like loneliness and boredom. I mean, boredom is a huge problem in the modern age.
Allow themselves a moment of boredom in conversations today before that.
He's going to have to learn to deal with boredom. It's something we all learn to deal with. Boredom is...
They measure boredom proneness, and obviously these questions are pretty clear.
Because they had to sleep with equipment like this. What we did find...
Just 2 weeks. And we then drove the hospital equipment all the way from London in convoy to the
real estate and equipment and even a subculture, I suppose, of people that are basically...
But you need to have the right equipment for it, right? You have to sharpen your knife, you have to...
People could get hurt and equipment broken, so the stakes were high. I said,
Rob, I was the person in high school that dodged gym and exercise every chance I could, right? I wanted nothing to...
Extraordinary and beautiful, but he dodges the Navalny bullet cleverly, and he says...
Do that. I want to dodge bullets myself. I just want to...
I felt like, I literally dodged a bullet, so like
I mean, it was reasonably free beforehand. Things like Medusa, Dodged, etc. were pretty good for the last.
And this is just a roundabout way of saying, is there something that we got wrong through failure? So,
Yeah, this is a roundabout way of answering your question.
I came about this in a rather roundabout way. I used to be a Walt Disney Imagineer, so I'm like a trained...
The prominence of roundabouts, if anybody has been to the Middle East, you'll know how important
Well, I guess in a roundabout way, who was it that said to me,
to be heard, and I bitterly regretted having given up the piano, which I think is a very common thing. And
forgiving yourself means letting go of regrets you cannot change and acknowledge.
We are both taking advantage of, and in some ways have to regret. Let's hope we're moving out of that stage.
Basking sorrow and regret of what was or wasn't or what will never be. So
professionally with the women, I regret now looking back on my life some of the things I said and the way I acted.
Frozen peas. And I just had them thaw overnight. If you didn't think of thawing them overnight in the fridge,
So as the tundra begins to thaw, there is methane locked up in it, and so the ground beneath doesn't thaw out, and that's very important. It means that
or in the freezer, how do you thaw it? All those good stuff.
So if you're going to go to a Whole Foods,
frozen peas. And I just had them thaw overnight. If you didn't think of thawing them overnight in the fridge,
when I was studying art history, or when I was going to the galleries when I was younger, I also felt that there was a bit of a tendency.
Sites like Howard or museums, galleries, etc.
Artist works, that so many of them were picked up by galleries. Many of those architects are now working on really...
Crowd from bumping into the artworks of the neighboring galleries, which was actually very funny. But the most interesting...
might know for having its name all over galleries and other artistic institutions around the world, but
paintings. And on the forearm of Archangel Gabriel blowing in the wind.
Average size and length of a woman's forearm, okay? And you want it kind of smooth.
My hand briefly on her forearm. No, don't stop looking. And then slip away.
Paintings. And on the forearm of Archangel Gabriel blowing in the wind.
Land mammals today, your right forearm would be what's left of the wild ones.
University about 20 years ago. It was a lefty student group, and they're objecting to a free speech.
Right? Counterclockwise, like lefty loosey, righty tighty. This time we will.
Butch Wilmore. Oh no, not right hand, lefty. Oh, here we go. Let's take this in.
Of people watching you, you know? And I'm a lefty, which is odd in the kitchen, but...
When I was making the question,
it suits Trumpists to frame them as fringe, lefty, weirdo, socialist positions, and that's what they did.
It represents speculative interests, supply and demand of people in the short term.
Do you have a sufficiently powerful aggregate demand? You have to do that, and that's obviously been a problem.
Or, double-digit millions of dollars in demands. So, that's
the cost of technology and the demands, the ever-increasing demands, and the ever-increasing ability of the health.
Going to go on the streets and demand your rights. There was a degree of personal.
The fried rice, but a little bit of that sweetness and tang. So I do add ketchup to my fried rice.
Plus the right balance of sweetness. And desserts are notoriously hard because
agave, which is a little bit of sweetness, and molasses. Oh my goodness, I love molasses. It's what gives it this kind of...
After this recalibration of your kind of sweetness radar, you'll eat things that you didn't think of.
It's intense, and it has sweetness, so it can be acidic without overwhelming the peach.
A new wave of tradeswomen, carpenters, welders, electricians, and masons are rising through...
A paralegal, an electrician in electrical.
No one. In 1893, he was an electrician who was asked to inspect.
Think about an electrician from the Inland Empire.
Like, please be a plumber. Like, we need electricians, like, desperately. But, like...
A bit more about you. What was it like growing up in Senegal? Your childhood, right?
So whether it's Latin America, India, China, Senegal, the thing that I've taken away from it is
Bengali chimps in the east of Senegal, and I asked her about that. I said, "Do chimpanzees?"
I categorize or I define the area by starting off with Senegal in the north, going all the way to.
So here's a picture from Dakar, Senegal. This is the Renaissance statue, and I went.
Sushi, or only Japanese sushi chefs create sushis, but it's sort of an argument.
Okay, chef, I think it's safe to say that the
met with the same reply my Italian chef gave to me. Sure, and if my grandmother had wheels,
I'm a head chef of the restaurant. I've been to some of the most.
And hats off to the chef here at KSD. Continuing on with our social media questions, we have.
Now, instead of being the trolley car driver, you are a bystander, standing on a pedestrian bridge overlooking.
That I couldn't do anything about as a bystander, as an investor from the sidelines. And that's why in 2014, it was actually.
Is that there's very few, if any, bystanders at CMC. You're always encouraged to get involved.
Use your voice. Don't be a bystander either. Just use your voice more often.
Are all of us sort of bystanders here? Should we know what's going on?
Usually on Energize, we speak to policymakers, academics, and scientists, but today we're doing things a little different.
I mentioned one climate scientist said to me, look, it won't be all bad.
Cropper with this, but if you're a scientist and you want to look at, say, how sex differences exist between
19. And in late 2019, we had an eminent scientist come to us. And
activists, educators, scientists, cognitive scientists, a cult deprogrammer.
Okay with you, I want to sit back here on the ledge. And he said, sit down.
Neil Hutchinson.
We were exhausted, we were beat down, we were walking down the east ledge's descent, rappelling down kind of in a stupor. And
요만한 턱에 넘어져서 내가 지금 내 아픈 부위도 모를.
Hanging there. This is before they invented the actual porter ledge, if you've heard of that, for sleeping up on El Cap.
She really held my hand through the process and talked me off of so many ledges where I was like, maybe I do need to bring in a.
He's the author of biographies of George Cantor and Abraham Robinson, and most recently
these days, a lot of period films, biographies are coming in Bollywood.
And just sit and read the biographies of the graduates. And he just took it all in.
Today. She wrote 2 biographies, one on Milton Friedman and the other.
And biographies. Another example, John Adams' Party of One.
ruptured disc impinged on my spinal cord, and it took me years to relearn how to walk. Wait to see.
Then I get this bright idea. I see these bungee cords there, and I say, "Come here, Nicole." And then I push her, and I say,
"Where," which will, I think, strike a chord with people in this audience.
My power was lost. I didn't have a power cord. And she said, "Well, why didn't you take notes by hand?"
Detectorists are discovering hoards, gold, silver. We read about it.
Into life through a playlist of pop anthems as iconic as her name, including Since You...
On the first place, and I heard national anthem, and it was American, and I was in Poland.
I would sing the national anthem. Like, we had so much fun, and we exposed those.
The Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing, "This will be..."
We're in the track stadium, and everybody is singing the French national anthem and going nuts, and then he wins, and everybody erupts.
Locate an expo center on one corner of this enormous parcel.
Out of church, and I'm not getting that out of Expo. And so I began looking very carefully at
2025. Well, it's next week, but it's not complete.
So we went to Expo West for our first time in 2015. And Expo West is the biggest.
So if you've ever done a triathlon, you go to the race expo the day before, and they give you everything. Like, you get your bike set up and.
In the United States, far exceeding fire incidents over there at about 1.3 million.
That was the first group. I thought it was an isolated incident, basically. But like I said, it turned out that they had pretty much all.
Is that that incident was actually is the reference to.
It's no longer an aberration, an incident here that make people shut.
As a form of liberation. Such incidents of accusation.
Taking the form of an alternating green and gravel patch and the contours as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go for it. From Becky, gravel. All right. Seems to be the new hotness.
The bullet goes into the ground. Right there we see the gravel just opposite the black gentleman's foot.
This is how I saw my wealth. This was my wealth.
And walked barefoot through puddles and gravel patches. It made me think of how people walked around about it. Genes that can identify and favor copies of themselves will spread at the expense of those. No, that's why every animal, like a lion comes in, it'll kill the cubs.
Of things with the expenses, but also decisions that are intrinsically very unpopular.
If it comes at the expense of another, that we might reduce the distance, stop turning.
Of managing the expenses and the revenue. Now,
participation in democracy over decades. I think the MP's expenses scandal of 2011 was a huge.
The Philadelphia Bulletin in 1971 that shows the whole when it first started.
Who's bullied them? Oh, obviously racial allegations that they're in any.
Viral content circulating on ARPANET, bulletin board systems, Usenet discussions, and later.
Which will go into the bulletin that is sent out by Intelligence Squared. You can use the QR code.
Artists. On my college bulletin board, I had this poem pinned titled Ode on.
Following the Great Leap Forward, he launched this attempt to industrialize and collectivize the economy. But it was.
And Homer, and I'm not going to attempt a Homer voice, but Homer says, Marge, don't discourage the boy.
Turn over a new leaf. Yet, every noble attempt at fostering peace was met with hostility.
During the Nigeria-Biafra War for attempting to try and reconcile sides.
From Moscow, having managed to survive an assassination attempt against him, it shows that Putin means business in making sure that...
Around 35 weeks into pregnancy, the results were striking.
Have you had any pregnancy complications? With that simple question...
Or even turn around for their entire pregnancies. Once they gave birth.
Beyond the advice on preventing pregnancy and protection against sexually transmitted infection.
Neanderthal variant protects us from bleeding during pregnancy and prevents spontaneous abortions.
Parsley from the purple basil. You buy this beautiful bouquet and it has, there's one that uses fresh herbs, and you could use basil, cilantro, parsley, chives.
Did some fresh basil instead, and vegan parmesan. So this is one of my
to really express it. And Basil, my son, is watching here, and one of the examples I use.
Susan, and you don't see basil on here because basil doesn't like it very.
Surrounded by birds and trees and. Quite a
just like this old antique Rolodex from my father's office.
And that's like actual Rolodex with people's
just courses in late antique, medieval, and Italian Renaissance and Baroque architecture.
For example, like I love collecting antiques and I have a not so secret shopping habit.
In London, or having your own antique shop in Paris, or even being an art advisor in Kuwait.
Has more of like a context of intruder or, some kind of like invasive, clumsy.
Muslims are being sold as invaders and intruders who don't belong here, who are
exhibit aggressive behavior against an intruder. You can inactivate that, and the mother will no longer.
Your wits. Well, is it because there's an intruder in your house, or is it because you're in a haunted house?
Brilliantly, I think, is to capture the stories of individuals that aren't just her grandparents. And
part of Iberdrola's global green team. Their stories illustrate firsthand the new pathways providing
capabilities. And so that's one of these stories that I saw that evolved over the time that I was there.
He's written a huge number of bestsellers on some of the biggest stories of our time and has watched the story of...
Talk about how resilient people are and the stories people tell. But that's not what I'm arguing for. I'm arguing for
capabilities. So we start toggling back to kind of our primitive sense of self.
You can just toggle over to following, and then you only see content from the people.
Be able to toggle between both realities. But what I will say, which I think is actually
a button, you can toggle between speaker or gallery view, however you want to view the program.
You can just toggle over to following,
and then you only see content from the people.
Time period. Plus, you had like all the crazy fads that were happening, the way that media was starting.
Seems to be much more than a fad, crossing income and geographic lines. But can smaller farms
advice in media, books, and literature, fad diets that come and go, and oftentimes
or obsessive, and now without falling for fad diets. So under the pillar of nutrition, you can
the gamification fad, which has kind of fizzled out. So
understanding better the universe or parcels of the universe, and that sometimes means confirmness
of the architect's project is part and parcel with the.
He attracted many investors by offering them large parcels of land. In fact, he offered them as many as 3 million acres.
Place, right? It's part and parcel of who we are today, and it's sometimes difficult to kind of see the.
Really, kind of. It's part and parcel of a mechanistic philosophy of the world, right? That somehow.
Vocabio, available in Google Play. Download, discover, improve your English.